She just wanted to finish her shift. But what she found in the supply closet that night changed everything. Nobody noticed her at first. They never did. It was 2:47 a.m. on a Thursday at Riverside General Hospital, and the kind of bone-deep quiet had settled over the floors that made every footstep echo like a drumbeat. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting that familiar institutional glow that made everyone look pale and tired. Maria Santos pushed her cleaning cart down the empty corridor of the pediatric wing, rubber wheels squeaking softly against the linoleum. She'd been working these overnight shifts for 3 years now, invisible to most, essential to all. She moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who knew exactly how long each room took, which corners the day staff always missed, and where to find the supplies when the closets ran empty. But Maria Santos wasn't just another night janitor. She was a registered nurse. Back in El Salvador, she'd worked trauma units, delivered babies, saved lives. Here in Chicago, her medical degree meant nothing without the right certifications, the right English scores, the right connections. So she cleaned hospital rooms at midnight while studying for her nursing boards during the day, sending money home to her mother, and raising her 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, alone. The pediatric wing was her favorite assignment. Quieter than the ER, calmer than the surgical floors. The kids who were awake always smiled when they saw her. Some of the younger nurses actually acknowledged her existence, unlike the day shift supervisors who looked through her like she was part of the furniture. But tonight felt different. She'd noticed it during her first rounds. Hushed conversations that stopped when she entered rooms, concerned looks between the night staff, an unusual number of administrators still in the building at 3 a.m. Something was happening, and nobody was talking about it. Room 312 was where she first heard the crying. Not the usual crying you heard in a children's hospital, the tired whimpers of sick kids or the frustrated sobs of exhausted parents. This was different, desperate, scared. She paused outside the door, listening. A woman's voice, broken and pleading. "Please, I don't understand. She was fine yesterday. How does a healthy 6-year-old just collapse?" Maria recognized the voice. Mrs. Patterson, whose daughter Emma had been admitted 2 days ago with what they'd called routine fatigue. Maria had seen the little girl during her rounds, bright eyes, curious about everything, asking questions about the cleaning supplies and whether Maria had kids of her own. She knocked softly and peered in. Mrs. Patterson sat beside the hospital bed, holding her daughter's limp hand. Emma's skin had a grayish pallor that made Maria's chest tighten with recognition. "Excuse me," Maria said quietly. "I can come back later." Mrs. Patterson looked up, eyes red-rimmed and desperate. "No, it's okay. Do you know what's happening? The doctors keep saying they're running tests, but nobody will tell me anything." Maria stepped inside, leaving her cart in the hallway. She'd broken protocol before for crying mothers. What did they tell you when she first came in? Dehydration, maybe a virus. They said kids bounce back fast at her age. Mrs. Patterson's voice cracked. But she's gotten worse every day. And now there are 3 other children on this floor with the same symptoms. Maria's stomach dropped. 3 other children, all with the same mysterious illness that looked suspiciously like something she'd seen before, in a different hospital in a different country during her residency. "What room numbers?" Maria asked, trying to keep her voice casual. 315, 318, and 320. Their parents are scared too. We've been talking in the family lounge. The nurses won't tell us anything, and the doctors keep avoiding our questions. Maria nodded, squeezed Mrs. Patterson's shoulder gently, and stepped back into the hallway. Her hands were shaking as she pulled out her phone and opened the Notes app. For children. Same wing. Same symptoms. Same timeline. She thought about Sophia, asleep at home with the babysitter, and felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. The supply closet on the 3rd floor was supposed to be locked at night. Maria had noticed the door ajar during her 4 a.m. rounds and went to secure it. Hospital policy, safety procedures she'd memorized from the employee handbook nobody thought she could read. But when she opened the door wider, she saw him. Dr. Richard Hoffman, head of pediatrics, stuffing papers into a black briefcase with shaking hands. Vials of medication scattered across the metal shelving. empty packaging that didn't belong in a supply closet, and syringes, dozens of them, in a red medical waste container that should have been emptied hours ago. He looked up when he heard the door creak. His face went white when he saw her. "You're not supposed to be here," he said, voice tight with panic. Maria stayed in the doorway, blocking his exit. Something her trauma training had taught her: never corner a desperate person, but never give them an easy escape either. "Neither are you, Dr. Hoffman." He straightened up, trying to recover his authority. "I'm conducting research. Perfectly legitimate. You can go back to your cleaning." Maria's eyes moved to the scattered vials. She recognized some of the labels: experimental medications, trial drugs, things that required consent forms and ethics committee approval. Things that definitely didn't belong in a pediatric wing supply closet at 4 a.m. "What kind of research?" "Nothing that concerns you." His voice had an edge now. "You should leave." But Maria didn't move. She was thinking about Emma Patterson's gray skin, about 3 other children with the same mysterious symptoms, about the hushed conversations that stopped when she entered rooms. "Are you testing drugs on the children?" The silence stretched between them like a wire about to snap. Dr. Hoffman closed the briefcase with deliberate calm. "You have no idea what you're talking about. And even if you did, who would believe you? You're nobody. A janitor who doesn't even speak English properly." The words hit like a slap, but Maria had heard worse. What chilled her was the calculated coldness in his voice. The way he said "nobody" like it was a fact instead of an insult. "I speak English perfectly," she said quietly. "And I'm a registered nurse." Dr. Hoffman laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. "In what country? Your credentials don't mean anything here. You're cleaning toilets for a reason." Maria stepped into the closet, close enough to read the medication labels clearly, close enough to see the dates on the trial paperwork scattered across the shelf, close enough to smell the fear sweat coming off him in waves. "Experimental treatment for pediatric anemia," she read aloud from one of the papers. "Phase 2 trials. Participants aged 6 to 12. She looked up at him. "Where are the consent forms, Dr. Hoffman?" His face went pale again. "You don't understand the complexity. I understand that those children downstairs are sick because of something you gave them. And I understand that their parents don't know." The silence returned, heavier this time. Dr. Hoffman set down the briefcase and stepped closer. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Listen carefully. If you say anything about this, I will destroy you. I'll have you deported. I'll make sure you never work in this country again. Your daughter, what's her name, Sophia? Will watch her mother disappear one night and never come back." Maria's blood turned to ice. He knew about Sophia, had looked into her background, her immigration status, her vulnerabilities. This wasn't a random threat, it was a carefully planned intimidation. But instead of backing down, she pulled out her phone. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Taking pictures." The camera clicked as she documented the vials, the paperwork, his face. "Evidence." Dr. Hoffman lunged for the phone, but Maria was quicker. 3 years of midnight shifts had taught her to move fast and stay alert. She slipped past him and out into the hallway, phone clutched tight in her hand. "Maria," he called after her, voice echoing off the empty walls. "Don't be stupid. You have everything to lose and nothing to gain." She turned back to face him, standing in the doorway of the supply closet like a man watching his life fall apart. "I have everything to lose if I stay quiet," she said. "Those children deserve better. And so does my daughter." Maria didn't go home at the end of her shift. She drove to a 24-hour diner on the north side, ordered black coffee she couldn't afford, and sat in a corner booth with her phone, trying to figure out who to call. The police? They'd ask for her papers first and her story second. The hospital administration? Dr. Hoffman was their golden boy, published researcher, grant money, reputation. The medical board? She was a janitor with a foreign nursing degree and no proof except photos that could be explained away. But she had to try. At 7:30 a.m., she called the one person she thought might listen. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the young resident who always said good morning when Maria cleaned the break room. The one who'd helped her practice English medical terminology during slow nights. The one who seemed to actually see her as a person. Dr. Walsh? This is Maria Santos. From the night cleaning crew. Maria? Is everything okay? You sound upset. Maria took a breath. I need to tell you something about Dr. Hoffman. About the children in the pediatric wing. But not over the phone. Can you meet me? There was a long pause. Maria, I can't get involved in. For children are sick because of something he's doing to them. Their parents don't know. If we don't stop him, more children will get hurt. Another pause. Where do you want to meet? Dr. Walsh looked exhausted when she walked into the diner an hour later. Residents always look tired, but this was different. The kind of tired that comes from seeing too much and not being able to fix it. I can only stay a few minutes, she said, sliding into the booth across from Maria. I have rounds at 9. Maria showed her the photos on her phone. Dr. Walsh's expression changed as she scrolled through them. Confusion, then recognition, then horror. Jesus, she whispered. These are trial medications. Experimental stuff. We don't use these in pediatrics. He was hiding them in the supply closet. Paperwork too. Trial documents without consent forms. Dr. Walsh handed the phone back, hands shaking slightly. Maria, this is... If what you're saying is true, this is criminal. But I can't. I mean, I'm just a resident. Nobody listens to residents. Nobody listens to janitors either. But those children are getting sicker. Dr. Walsh stared into her coffee cup. There have been rumors. Other residents talking about unusual cases. Symptoms that don't make sense. But Hoffman's been at this hospital for 15 years. He brings in millions in research funding. Administration protects him. What about the children's parents? They trust the doctors. They trust the system. If Hoffman told them it was routine treatment, she trailed off, the implications sinking in. Maria leaned forward. I've seen this before, Dr. Walsh. In El Salvador during my residency. Drug companies testing medications in communities where people can't say no. Children dying from treatments that were never meant for them. Dr. Walsh looked up sharply. You're a doctor? I was. Here. I'm just the woman who cleans your break room. Maria's voice was steady, but there was pain underneath. But I remember what I learned. And I know what those symptoms mean. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the situation settling between them. What do you want me to do? Dr. Walsh finally asked. Help me get to the parents. Help me explain what's happening to their children. They have a right to know. Dr. Walsh checked her watch, made a decision. There's a support group meeting tonight. Parents of the affected children. 7 p.m. in the hospital conference room. I can get you in. And then what? Then we tell the truth and hope it's enough. The conference room felt smaller than it looked during the day. 6 parents sat around the oval table, coffee cups and tissues scattered across the surface. Mrs. Patterson was there, along with faces Maria recognized from her late-night rounds. Tired parents who'd been living at the hospital, sleeping in uncomfortable chairs, watching their children get sicker instead of better. Dr. Walsh introduced Maria as a healthcare professional who's been observing some concerning patterns. Not a lie, but not the whole truth either. I don't understand, said a man Maria recognized as Emma's father. Are you saying Dr. Hoffman has been lying to us? Maria chose her words carefully. I'm saying your children may have been given experimental medications without your knowledge or consent. The room erupted. Voices raised, accusations flying, demands for proof. Mrs. Patterson stood up, face flushed with anger and fear. My daughter is dying, and you're telling me it's because some doctor decided to use her as a test subject? I'm telling you that her symptoms match side effects from medications that aren't approved for children her age. Maria showed them the photos on her phone. The medications, the trial paperwork, the supply closet evidence. She explained what each drug was designed to do, what the side effects could be, why the combination was dangerous. The parents listened with growing horror. Questions came fast. How long had this been going on? How many children were affected? What could be done to help their kids? We need to contact the authorities. Dr. Walsh said. Medical board, state health department, FBI if necessary. And say what? Asked another parent. That a janitor took some pictures in a closet? They'll close ranks around Hoffman and make this disappear. Maria stood up slowly. Not if we all speak together. Not if the story gets out before they can control it. She pulled out a business card she'd been carrying in her wallet for months. A reporter from the Chicago Tribune who'd written about immigrant healthcare workers during the pandemic. Someone who might listen to a story about powerful doctors and powerless patients. I know someone who might help us tell this story the right way. Sarah Chun arrived at the hospital at 10 p.m., carrying a digital recorder and a notebook full of questions. Maria met her in the parking garage, away from security cameras and administrative oversight. You said on the phone this was about medical experimentation, Sarah said without preamble. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious situation. Maria handed her a flash drive with copies of all the photos, plus medical records she'd compiled from memory. For children so far. Maybe more we don't know about. Sarah scrolled through the images on her laptop, taking notes. This Dr. Hoffman, he's well-respected, major research grants, published extensively. You're sure about this? I watched him hide evidence at 4 in the morning. I've seen the children get sicker after treatments their parents weren't told about. I know what those medications do. And you're a janitor? Maria met her eyes. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 12 years. In this country, I clean floors because my credentials aren't recognized. But I haven't forgotten how to read medical charts. Sarah's expression shifted. That's actually a better story. Foreign-trained medical professional working as janitor uncovers medical conspiracy. Can you prove your background? Maria handed her a folder with her El Salvador medical degree, her transcripts, her nursing certification. I've been studying for the U.S. nursing boards for 3 years. I know medicine, Ms. Chun. I know when something is wrong. They talked for 2 hours. Sarah interviewed Dr. Walsh by phone, recorded statements from 3 of the parents, verified the medication information through her contacts at the FDA. By midnight, she had enough for a story. This goes live tomorrow morning, she said. Once it's published, there's no going back. You sure you're ready for what comes next? Maria thought about Sophia, asleep at home, about Emma Patterson and the other children fighting for their lives upstairs, about every immigrant who'd been told their education didn't matter. Their experience didn't count. Their voice didn't deserve to be heard. I've been ready my whole life. The story broke at 6 a.m. on Friday morning. Foreign nurse working as janitor exposes alleged medical experimentation at Riverside General. By 8 a.m., it was trending on social media. By 10 a.m., news vans were parked outside the hospital. Maria watched the coverage from her apartment, Sophia eating cereal beside her, unaware that her mother had just become the center of a media storm. Mama, why aren't you at work? Sophia asked. I might not have that job anymore, Mija, but I think that's okay. Her phone rang constantly, reporters, lawyers, advocates, people offering support and others making threats. Dr. Walsh called to tell her that Dr. Hoffman had been suspended pending investigation. The FBI had seized records from his office and laboratory. But the call that mattered most came at 2 p.m. Ms. Santos? This is Patricia Williams from the Illinois Department of Public Health. We need to meet immediately to discuss your allegations and coordinate medical care for the affected children. Are you going to help them? We're going to try, but we need your expertise. Your nursing background, your observations, your evidence. Can you come in today? Maria looked at Sophia, who was drawing pictures at the kitchen table, completely absorbed in her art. I'll be there in an hour. The investigation took 6 months. Dr. Hoffman was arrested on charges of medical fraud, child endangerment, and violating federal research protocols. The pharmaceutical company that had been funding his research faced congressional hearings and criminal charges. 3 other doctors at different hospitals were implicated in similar schemes. The 4 children recovered, though Emma Patterson spent 2 weeks in intensive care before the experimental drugs were fully cleared from her system. Maria became the state's key witness, testifying before grand juries, medical boards, and congressional committees. Her nursing background was scrutinized, validated, and ultimately recognized. The Illinois Board of Nursing fast-tracked her credential review and offered her a full nursing license. Dr. Walsh was promoted to chief resident and started a program for foreign-trained medical professionals to transition into U.S. healthcare roles. Sarah Chun won a Pulitzer Prize for investigative reporting. And Maria Santos, the woman who'd been invisible for 3 years, found herself at the center of a national conversation about healthcare, immigration, and the value of every voice in the system. On her last night working the cleaning shift, she walked through the pediatric wing one final time. Room 312 was empty. Emma Patterson had gone home 2 weeks earlier, healthy and laughing, asking her mother when they could visit the nurse who saved her life. Jenna appeared in the doorway of the break room, now wearing scrubs instead of a janitor's uniform. "Ready for your first day shift?" Dr. Walsh asked. Maria smiled, adjusting her new ID badge. "Maria Santos, RN, Pediatric Unit. I've been ready for 12 years. The next morning, she walked through the hospital's front entrance as the sun came up, her nursing bag in one hand and Sophia's hand in the other. Sophia would spend the morning in the hospital daycare while Maria attended orientation for her new position. "Mama," Sophia said as they approached the elevator, "are you happy?" Maria squeezed her daughter's hand and thought about the children who were safe because someone had finally listened, about the parents who now knew the truth, about all the voices that had been silenced and were finally being heard. "Yes, Mija, I'm happy." But more than that, she was proud. Not just of what she'd accomplished, but of what she'd refused to accept. She'd refused to believe that her voice didn't matter, that her background didn't count, that injustice was just the way things were. In the elevator, a young doctor she didn't recognize looked at her badge and smiled. "Welcome to the team, Nurse Santos." For the first time in 3 years, Maria Santos was seen exactly as she was. A healthcare professional, a protector of children, a woman who'd risked everything to do what was right. And that was enough. If you've ever been told your voice doesn't matter, your experience doesn't count, or your concerns aren't valid, remember Maria Santos. Remember that courage doesn't require a title, expertise doesn't depend on recognition, and doing the right thing is always worth the risk. Speak up. Stand up. The people who need your voice are counting on you to find it.